everybody, it's Maria with Companion Labs, and standing beside me, I've got Brian Deegan, co-founder of Companion Labs.
Hi, everybody.
Today we will be talking about grades, clearly, and I know a lot of you have been exposed to grades through bid test, but we've got predictive budget recommendations coming for you soon, and so understanding these grades is going to be more important than ever. That's why we brought Brian in to answer some of your questions so that he can explain the importance of grades, how we give them to you, and what you can do once you've got them. So Brian, you want to kick it off?
I will kick it off.
Okay.
So, yeah, grades are super important to what we do
at
Companion Labs. They're a big part of what we had when we launched bid testing back in April. They're a big part of what we're doing right now, and they're a big part of the future. So a lot of you have gotten exposed to our grading through bid tests. So you kick up a bid test, you have different bid levels, and you want to be able to identify which ones are performing well, which ones aren't. And so we assign grades to do that. Now, a big thing with our grade assignment is we only assign a grade when there is a level of statistical significance with the performance that is reached, right? So you're not just going off your gut, you're able to make a really informed decision where when it reaches a level of statistical significance, what that basically just means in very simple terms is that the probability that you're going to see that performance continue goes way up.
Right on. Okay, so what happens if you never reach that statistical significance?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where you need to have a certain amount of data and a certain amount of performance to be able to reach statistical significance and be able to have that confidence that you're going to see that performance over a period of time. So if we don't have enough data in the system, or the performance is not really going in a specific direction, then we just don't have it yet. And so at the very beginning, if you kick off a bid test or if you CL track an ad set from Companion Labs, what you might get is I think we have a U over there, right? Yeah, so that just stands for unavailable. It just means that we haven't reached statistical significance yet to be able to assign a grade.
Right, I know a lot of our users have seen these and they're wondering, is this good or is this bad? It's neither.
It just is.
Right, it just is.
It just
exists. Okay. So what happens then if and when you get an A? What does that mean?
What that means, and we probably should have had this feature on day 1 instead of day 180, but we just released grade guides recently, and they're super helpful to understand specifically what an A means, right? So before grade guides, we would say they're good, right?
Right.
And you would have to translate what good meant to your ad account. But now if you go to app.companionlabs.com, log in, you will see your grade guides for both prospecting and remarketing, along with every goal that you optimize ad sets to. So you're able to see, okay, for purchase conversion, for prospecting, what is my performance threshold for an A versus what is my performance threshold for a B, what is my performance threshold for a C, and again, it's based on the context of your ad account and not just ad sets that you bid test or CL track, but all of the ad sets. That's what's defining those performance thresholds for prospecting and remarketing for the different goals that you're optimizing to.
Right. Okay. So when you're toggling though between prospecting and remarketing, what exactly are you doing there?
That's a good question, and I think it's really important for everybody to think about their campaigns, their ad sets, what they're optimizing to in the context of prospecting. So these are people that have never been to your website. Some people refer to it as cold traffic. Some people refer to it as customer acquisition, right? But they're campaigns or ad sets that are going to individuals in the newsfeed that have basically never really interacted with you, maybe saw an ad before, but they've, again, never been to your website, never bought. So those are all your prospecting ad sets, and Companion Labs just automatically does this categorization for you. Remarketing are people that have come to your website, your existing customers, and so the reason why we want to delineate between the two is because think about it, if you're optimizing to purchase and you're trying to get that customer for the very first time, your cost per checkout could be $20, $25, but then for a remarketing campaign that might be doing dynamic product ads, for the first 3 days, that ad set, you might see a $2 cost per checkout on that purchase. So it's really important to delineate between an A for a performance threshold for your remarketing ad sets versus an A for a performance threshold for your prospecting campaigns, even if you're optimizing to the same goal.
Sure. Okay, so delineate a little bit for us between an A and a C.
Okay. The best way to think about our C is that again, and it gets back to the grade guides, right? So if you're looking at your C's in your grade guides for your different goals that you're optimizing to, when you see your performance threshold for a C, you're probably going to look at that and say, that's my minimal level of acceptable performance. Right, before I start shutting stuff off. Right. So that's what a C should represent. The A, when you look at those performance thresholds in your grade guide, you'll likely look at them and say, that's the good stuff. Right.
Cool. So
and then B's basically literally in between.
Right. So we're hanging on here. Now what about D's and F's? I know Companion Lab shuts those off automatically. That's the default, right?
For bid tests, yes.
Yes.
For bid tests, yes. So if you go to app.companionlabs.com, go to settings, you'll see that automatically shut off D's and F's for bid tests is shut off by default, just like you said. It's turned on to automatically shut them off.
To shut them off. Yes.
Yeah.
The default
Sorry
is
if I
that.
confused that.
Default is that D's and F's for bid tests, Companion Labs will just shut those off for you. But if you go to settings
and you look at the setting for CL track ad sets,
yes,
right? Those we won't automatically shut off by default. And the reason for that is that if you're starting up prospecting campaigns and new ones, so fresh campaigns, and you CL track those ad sets to be able to get your grades to come in, there is going to be a period of time when you're optimizing, when you're building up those conversions, where you're probably going to be in that performance threshold, but the trend arrow should be going up.
That's my next question.
During that time.
Okay, so A, B, C makes sense. Use, unavailable, it just is. D's and F's. What does this arrow mean?
The arrow. Actually, before I jump into the arrow, can I go back to something real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that happened early on was when people said, hey, you know what, I really like how easy it is to be able to understand performance with statistical significance on my bid tests. Can I have that on all of my ad sets, right? And so that's where it may not necessarily be the most elegant thing on the planet, but if you type CL track at the end of an ad set name on any ad set name from Ads Manager or Power Editor, right, you're going to see our grading come in. You're going to see the trend indicator that I'll talk about here in a minute. And then all of the hourly insights, the daily metrics table, being able to track your budget changes and plot them and see the performance over time. All of that kicks in within app.companionlabs.com.
Right, and we've said this before, you want to bid test a winner. So when you're trying to decide which ad set qualifies as a winner, these grades will make it really easy for you to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good, that's a great point. Arrow. So the arrow in some ways is almost as important as the grade itself. So one thing to remember is that when you're seeing an A in Companion Labs or assigned by Companion Labs, even if you're an ads manager, this A represents the last 30 days of performance, right? Within the ad account for that ad set. So this is 30 days. The trend arrows will change, right? So let's say it's going like this. You've got an A and it's sideways. Sideways, left to right, is not bad. That just means that the performance is going in basically a flat direction. But if you've got an A, you're probably perfectly fine with that level of performance. Right? Now, if you see it go like this, what that means is that there is at least 3 days, potentially up to 7 days, where the performance is trending up, right? If you see it go like this, then back here, then it's just flatlined again. But you can see this, where you've got this, and then maybe in 2 days, you see this, right? So what's really nice about this is that at a glance, when you're sitting in Ads Manager, right, and you see this change, you're able to quickly know that, boy, okay, even though I'm doing okay today, I just crossed a threshold where over at least of the last 3 days, I've started a downward trend, right? So this really provides the recency of what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this provides that 30-day view.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really nice about this is that, I mean, we've all been there. Like, you're sitting in Ads Manager, you're looking at your ad sets, you haven't clocked a conversion in 16 hours, and you're starting to lose your mind, right? The grades kind of keep you from losing your mind. If you're sitting with an A and your arrow's going up or it's sideways, chill out, right?
It's more than just a screen capture in one moment's time. It kind of gives you this collective whole of how is this ad set doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's bringing that trending, that historical performance into the here and now versus when you're in Ads Manager or Power Editor, a lot of times you're just looking at the here and now.
Right. Very cool. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so how else, like what is unique about the way Companion Labs delivers all of this data?
Yeah. Well, a lot of our uniqueness is in the delivery. Like, we don't want to recreate wheels within Facebook, right? Facebook is building an awesome platform. In the future, we'll do things with Google, we'll do things with Amazon. Our objective is not to try to recreate functionality that they're already doing very well.
We don't have enough time.
Right. We don't have enough time, right? Or money. But the thing that's nice is that what we do offer is really just fundamental to our approach, right? Like I said, we don't want to create the wheels. We don't want to recreate wheels within those platforms. What we want to be able to do is deliver very simple, bite-sized apps to advertisers that help them make better decisions and more money, right? That's what we're doing. So when it comes to things like grading and the trending, that we make super simple. So it's not only statistical significance; it's statistical simplicity in terms of how it's delivered. I didn't come up with that. Bill Landers, the other co-founder and CEO, did.
He's the brains.
Yeah. But to be able to get this type of insight on your ad sets, you either are in this spot where within Ads Manager you don't really get it, right? And you either have to export it and take it to some data science colleague and have them do all the math for you and create the charts and what's going on, or you've got to pay usually a pretty big chunk of money for kind of an analytics suite, right? And you're logging out of Ads Manager and then logging into that and then running the reports. And so what makes us really unique just gets back to that approach where it's just statistical simplicity at a glance, right within Ads Manager or whatever tool you're using, because we're just taking these things and putting them in the ad set name.
Right. And so you can find all of this within Ads Manager and also within our app.
Yep.
Cool.
At app.companionlabs.com.
App.companionlabs.com. Okay, so I think last thing, something I see from a lot of our users, they say, okay, I've got an A as far as budget recommendations, scaling budgets are concerned. How do you take all of this data and turn it into tangible action?
Yep. Being able to predict what budget level you should increase an ad set to, I would say is going to be pretty good action that we're going to be able to provide. So the first thing that I'll say is that question, how much can I increase my budget on an ad set, is the answer is different if you're doing manual bidding versus automatic, right? Big difference there. So it's important to kind of delineate between those two different contexts of a manual bid and automatic bidding, because the answer is different. Within the context of manual, depending upon the bid level, your budget can be restrained by the demand pressure within the auction. So if your bid is too low, then that demand pressure is going to suppress your delivery, and you may not necessarily spend your whole budget.
Sure.
Right? On automatic, there isn't really that governor, right? So it really comes down to what is going to be the performance degradation that occurs at a certain budget level. And that's the problem that a lot of advertisers have to answer, right? It's basically budget scaling within Facebook today is essentially a lot of guesswork and a lot of painful trial and error, right? So what we're going to be doing with the predictive budget recommendations, right, is, and this is why it's so important that everybody gets really familiar with the grade guides at app.companionlabs.com, is that we will, based upon the data that we have for your ad account and your performance, our algorithm is going to start making budget recommendations for your A's and B's, and the level of that budget recommendation is going to be based upon our algorithm's prediction of what level you can increase it to and still maintain that A or B level performance.
Right.
So what it's basically going to do is remove that guesswork and remove that very painful trial and error process that
which we know ourselves.
We've all experienced
there,
it. We've
right?
all been there.
That's awesome. Well, for our users, you guys have something to look forward to. And Brian, thank you so much for taking the time
You're
to
welcome.
answer these questions.
You're
For our
welcome.
viewers, thank you so much for
Thank you.
watching. Please hop over to our app at app.companionlabs.com if you'd like to initiate a chat with one of us. We're happy to answer any more of your questions. Or you can hop on over to our help center at help.companionlabs.com if you need any information about what we discussed here today. Thank you for watching. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.